sea glass lovers, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm Jackie, and this is part 15 in my Lighthouse Workshop series. Now, if you've been following my Lighthouse Workshop series to date, you would have seen every step of the way I taught you a lesson of some sort in creating the sea glass mosaic, this sea glass mosaic, up to this point. So if you wanted to go back and watch any of those videos, go for it. It's in my Lighthouse Workshop playlist on my YouTube channel. And each video tells you a lesson. And today's video is creating a dynamic sky. Because as you can see, I've got it all filled in except for the sky. So I'm going to show you 5 different things to think about when you're finishing your sky to create a really dynamic, relaxing yet interesting sky. I like having a great big sky, and this piece is no exception. It's a large piece, so I like having lots of sky. But I do want that sky to be very relaxing, but not boring, still interesting. So let me give you a few tips on how to do that. So go outside and take a look at the sky. Mother Nature has a show for us every day. Some days more interesting than others. Some days the clouds are just plain blue with just a few wisps of cloud like that. And other days you get tons and tons of cloud and lots of interest. There you got the sun trying to peek through there. So use the actual sky for your inspiration in creating a really dynamic sky in your sea glass piece. So the first tip for making a dynamic sky, if you remember from my last video, I talked to you about creating movement with your sea glass, and I showed you how I started to create that movement with the lines of sea glass in the sky. So I'm just going to continue that throughout the entire sky, all the way across. And if I create a few lines to start with, then as I'm filling in, I'm still going to stick with that movement, and it's going to be very purposeful as opposed to just randomly placing the sea glass pieces there. So a second way to make your sky really interesting is to add some color to your clouds. So I'll often use white pottery pieces or some extra large pieces of white sea glass, but this time I'm using some of those white shells with purple on them. And I think they're going to make my clouds really interesting and really draw a person in to look closer. Plus, adding a bit of purple is always a good thing. A third tip for making your sky really dynamic is to vary the size of your sea glass. So if you notice here, I'm not using all the same size sea glass. So I'll make a line of fairly large sea glass and a line of smaller sea glass, and I'll kind of vary that as I'm going. Because if you use all the same approximate size of sea glass, your sky is going to look kind of flat. So a fourth way to add a bit of interest to your sky is to just add a few birds. So if you'll see here, I put in 3 cobalt blue birds up in the sky. Now, we don't find a whole lot of blue where I sea glass hunt, so I don't use a ton of it. So just to use it a bit sparingly like that really adds a bit of interest to the sky. And the cobalt blue, if you use it in an area where it's kind of dark, you'll kind of lose it. But does it ever stand out nice against a great big white area? So I often like to use just a tiny little bit in a large area of white, and it makes the area of white so much more interesting. So the fifth tip that I would give you is to vary the shade of white in your sky. So as I'm sure you're aware, white sea glass comes in many different shades. So as you can see here, I haven't used all the same shade of white. I've used quite a few different shades, plus I've done these streams of aqua colored sea glass and added a few that have just kind of changed to purple a little bit, and it just makes the sky so much more dynamic, because if you use all the same shade of white, I did it once and my sky looked really flat. So it really makes for a much more interesting dynamic sky if you use a lot of different shades. So I have finished my piece, except for adding some more interesting details. So join me for my next video when I'm going to show you how you can just do a few little finishing touches to add some interest to your sea glass mosaic. So thanks so much for joining me for this video. Until next time, I hope you make it out to the beach, and happy sea glass hunting.